Hi, my name is Camille Bloxam, and my educational oral presentation is on Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire was a Brazilian educator. He was born in 1921 in Recife, Brazil. This oral presentation is going to cover 6 of Freire's teaching concepts, a little bit about a book that he wrote, and I'll just share my thoughts at the end with a conclusion. Paulo Freire had an experience when he was born. Not when he was born, but when he was being raised. He was raised in a poor area in Brazil, and that experience kind of built a lot of where his theories and philosophies come from. That experience was when he was around the poor, he saw a lot of illiterate adults, and he compared that to how the socioeconomic status has an effect on our learning. That's an experience that he works with a little bit more, but we're just going to move right on to those teaching concepts that I talked about. The first one that we're going to talk about is something called the praxis, and that is the idea of action and reflection in learning. I think it's so interesting that a lot of his teaching concepts are connected with gospel ways of learning so well. And with action and reflection, Freire talks about how we can't just learn and leave and expect it to stay in, that a real way that we learn is that we leave from our learning place and that we go and we act on it. If we learn something, we need to act on it and to really gain an understanding of it. And also reflection, that gives our mind the opportunity to gain a better understanding of what's being taught. And that's so connected with gospel principles and how we learn in the gospel. The second way that Freire builds his theories and concepts is with the Easter experience. When I think of the Easter experience, I obviously think of the resurrection of Christ and how it was a rebirth. And that is what the Easter experience is a rebirth. And it talks a lot about how, as a teacher, we need to be committed to the students and we have to be committed to changing for them and understanding things. There's a quote by Freire that I'll read really quickly. And it says, "Those who authentically commit themselves to the people must re-examine themselves constantly. This conversion is so radical as not to allow for ambivalent behavior. Conversion to the people requires a profound rebirth. Those who undergo it must take on a new form of existence. They can no longer remain as they were." When I think about this, I think of my mission experience, that we were always encouraged to change and to always become a better person and always deepen our conversion by constant change and commitment to what we were doing. I think that's the same with teaching, is that we constantly need to have this desire and this commitment to teach. Again, another connection with gospel teaching I think is great. The third one I want to talk about is called dialogue, and that talks about mutual respect, trusting in one another, and care and compassion. I think I like in a classroom that we encourage people to discuss and share their thoughts and their ideas, but if there isn't a mutual respect between students and pupils, they're not going to want to share their experiences or their ideas. And if there isn't a trust in one another, they're not going to want to share that either. In the gospel, when we're in a Sunday school class or what it might be, we don't want to share our experiences or our testimonies if we don't feel respected or if we don't have trust in those that are around us. I think that's such an important thing to have in learning, is being able to also be that teacher and that educator that can develop that mutual respect and that trust with pupils, that they can really rely on us and feel safe around us. The next one is a word that I can't really pronounce, but it is a real word. It's conscientization. I might have just pronounced it right. Conscientization talks about real problems and real needs, and how learning when it's not a real problem or a real need in the real world, that it's really hard for us to actually keep that in our minds or really soak that all up, and how it makes it easier for children and really anybody to learn things when it's a real world problem and it really has to deal with them. I think of math class and how when I was in math, I really didn't like it because I didn't understand any of it and I didn't feel like it had anything to do with anything I wanted to do in life. But there's a campus on class, I think it's Math 108, and I took that a few semesters ago, and it's called Math for the Real World. Now, obviously, that one covers real world issues, and I understood it, and I loved that class, even though I had a really bad distaste for math. And so I think that's something important, is using real world problems and real needs, and using that as we're teaching children new ideas or new materials. A fourth teaching concept is, or maybe this is 5. Yeah, this is 5. It's called codification. Codification is really cool, and it's really basic, but it's gathering information in order to build up the big picture. I think that's exactly how any kind of textbook's written, and kind of really how we teach. I think that's something that's really focused, is Freire's concept of codification, that we can't just throw it at people. We can't throw everything at people, that they need to learn it step by step, and here a little, there a little. It's such a gospel-related thing too, because when we're missionaries, or even when we're just teaching primary children or anyone, that we don't just throw everything at them, and that it's step by step, and that's how they gain that big picture, and that they're able to. The final teaching concept that I want to talk about is called the banking concept of knowledge. This one's interesting. It talks about how people believe that knowledge is a gift that's bestowed upon them, and they have the responsibility to give that gift to those that don't have knowledge. And I think that's with teachers, we feel like we're almost taking on that responsibility, and putting on those that are new to learning and new to education. And that's a really great one. I think it helps see that our responsibility isn't just to go tend to kids for 7 hours a day, that it really is to share that knowledge that we have through our experiences and with our training, and help them to prepare themselves. The book that Freire wrote, one of them, was called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And it's really cool because it talks about a relationship with teaching, and how it's on the relationship between the teacher, student, and society, how that's critical. I think that's really interesting, and I encourage you guys to learn a little bit about that on your own. It just, that's an invitation to give you to go study a little bit on that. And I'm really excited to read this book eventually. Conclusion is that I really have enjoyed learning about Paulo Freire. He really opens up a deeper understanding of the focus that people can bring to knowledge, and with their knowledge and experiences into the process of learning. I think that's critical. And I encourage you guys to learn a little bit more and check out my handout, and that is Paulo Freire.